Good morning, my dear students. Today's topic of discussion is antiplatelet drugs. But before going to that topic, I would like to clarify a little bit related to hemostasis, where certain things happened while the spontaneous arrest of bleeding when occurred from damaged blood vessels. So, what are the things actually happening when there is a cut injury in the precapillary vessels, uh, and we just going through step by step. So initially the precapillary vessels constrict, and it follows with the adherence of the platelets. So platelet adhesion is the initial step to the exposed collagen fibrils of the injured vessel via specific platelet collagen receptor, that is glycoprotein 1A 2A. So platelet has three receptors. There is one receptor called 1A 2A, and that is responsible for the initial phase of adherence, platelet collagen adherence, and that is helping in the hemostasis. This causes platelet activation and the release of preformed platelet granule constituents like serotonin, and there will be a de novo synthesis of mediators of coagulation, including adenosine diphosphate. That you can see that there will be a formation of adenosine diphosphate, and you will also see there will be synthesis of serotonin. Now, this ADP will ultimately promotes platelet aggregation, and how? By acting on these receptors, and thus they are forming a primary hemostatic plug, and ultimately these activated platelets lost their individual membranes, form a viscous mass, and promote the assembly of clotting factors. And therefore what happened, there will be amplification of thrombin formation. So activated platelets, they will generate thromboxane A2, which is basically a potent platelet agonist that also stimulates additional platelets. The other platelet agonists are collagen, adenosine diphosphate, that is ADP, adrenaline, and thrombin. Now, ADP elicits its effect on the platelet by acting on P2Y1 and P2Y12 receptor, whereas the thrombin, they are acting on their they're interacting with the protease activated receptors. They are known as PAR1 and PAR4. So this is the mechanism, and platelet has three receptors: 1A 2A, 2B 3A, and 1A 9. So these are the three receptors which are responsible for the whole mechanism. Now the circulating fibrinogen, which binds to an activated platelet receptor, that is glycoprotein 2B3A. This is binding with fibrinogen, which is also known as integrin. This glycoprotein 2B3A is also known as integrin and is converted to fibrin. The process of deposition of fibrin is called coagulation. So this is the thing which is happening in the normal, the physiological phenomenon, but when it becomes pathological, when unnecessarily this clotting is happening, this coagulation is happening, then it's going to cause a lot of problem for the patients. This may also affect some arteries, very important arteries like coronary artery. So what we will do, we'll go to the next slide and we'll see how we can intervene this process. Now platelets, as they express several glycoproteins integrin receptors on their surface, being shown in the last slide. The reactive proteins like collagen and von Willebrand factors are exposed when there is a damage of vascular endothelium, and they actually react respectively to platelet, GP, 1A and GP1B receptors. This results in platelet activation, the release of pro-aggregatory and vasoconstrictor mediators like thromboxane A2, ADP and serotonin. So they are all responsible for this platelet aggregation. Ultimately, the platelet GP2B3A receptor undergoes a conformational change and favoring the binding of fibrinogen and von Willebrand factor, and that cross-link platelets inducing aggregation and ultimately anchorage to vessel wall and the other surface. So therefore, there is a formation of platelet plug. So that is the thing which we are observing here. The plug disruption, the collagen, here is the von Willebrand factor. There will be platelet adhesion and secretion. One of the important factor responsible for this is serotonin. It is also happening via ADP mediated process. The platelet recruitment and activation via cyclooxygenase 1 enzyme. Ultimately, it's forming thromboxane A2. It is also helping in platelet aggregation, whereas the prostacyclin or PGI2 is just inhibiting the action of thromboxane A2 physiologically, and ultimately at the end result is the formation of the fibrinogen and the bonding between the fibrinogen and glycoprotein 2B3A, that is almost at the last part, and from here we are seeing there is platelet aggregation. So we have few drugs which will block these phenomena in different steps. So first thing is the low dose aspirin, and this is also called funny dose aspirin. It ranges from 75 to 325 or 350 milligram, usually given in the chewable form at the initial loading dose and followed by the maintenance dose, usually 75 to 150 milligram for long duration. The explanation of aspirin is already been discussed in the class, but still I am repeating once more. It acetylates this enzyme COX-1 and thromboxane synthase, but this acetylation reaction is a irreversible one. It's happening in the portal circulation before reaching the systemic circulation, and this part, the inhibition of thromboxane A2 is also happening at both levels. Even in the systemic circulation, it is inhibiting thromboxane A2 synthase enzyme. So the platelet ultimately, this blockage of these two will help in the anti-aggregation of platelets. So this is the basic mechanism of action of low dose aspirin. So basically the platelets are exposed to aspirin in the portal circulation, and it is exposed before it is deacetylated and before it is undergoing first pass metabolism in the liver. So that is the main mechanism. And these platelets, the problem with them is they cannot synthesize a new enzyme. So, and their half-life is the lifespan is 7 days. So till 5 to 7 days there will be no such synthesis of this kind of platelets, and hence if you stop aspirin, you have to wait for 5 to 7 days to completely nullify the effect of low dose aspirin. After that you can go for any surgery, the chance of bleeding will be minimal. But here aspirin, low dose aspirin is going to be very effective, and this is being effective in different situations, prophylactic as well as a therapeutic drug in case of myocardial infarction, in case of cerebral infarction, like that is stroke. So in both the cases you can prescribe the drugs like low dose aspirin. The second drug which I would like to mention over here is basically the ADP inhibitor. Rather, this is the more potent congener of ticlopidine like drug. Ticlopidine is given at the top. It is not used nowadays. Mostly the clopidogrel is used, which is a similar mechanism of action that of ticlopidine. So their mechanism is basically acts by blocking the P2Y1 two type of pathogenic purinergic receptors on the surface of platelets, and they inhibits ADP induced aggregation. So the ticlopidin produced beneficial effects in transient ischemic attack, in stroke prevention, in case of secondary prophylaxis of myocardial infarction, and it can be synergized with aspirin, low dose aspirin, because their mechanism of actions are different. So the combination of low dose aspirin and clopidogrel or ticlopidin will give you synergistic action. The term synergism is coming from general pharmacology, where the effect is going to be more if you add the individual effect of the drug. The combination will give you a better effect. This clopidogrel is a very important drug, and this drug is basically resembles ticlopidin in inhibiting platelet function mostly irreversibly, and has the same range of therapeutic efficacy. But it is a safer and obviously better tolerated drug. But we can see neutropenia occurs in about 1% of the patients taking ticlopidin. It is rare with clopidogrel, and the clopidogrel versus aspirin in patients at risk of ischemic agents trial has found annual risk of primary ischemic events than aspirin recipients. So obviously, that if the trial report is showing that, sometimes we are going in favor of clopidogrel. But while prescribing clopidogrel, you have to remember that it is involving the biotransformation step in the liver and affecting CYP2C19 enzyme, and therefore it is inactivated. The problem is, if you prescribe some drugs like omeprazole with that, omeprazole will not allow clopidogrel to be converted to its active ingredients. So the effect of clopidogrel is lost. Therefore, we used to prescribe drug like pantoprazole, and usually we keep a difference of around 12 hours between the dose of clopidogrel and pantoprazole. The action of clopidogrel lasts for 5 days due to its irreversible blockage of platelet 2p2y12 receptors. What are the most common adverse effects? That is also true for low dose aspirin. The most important adverse effect is bleeding. In addition of aspirin to clopidogrel, sometimes is given in case of the patients who are having stent. To prevent, to keep this stent in the proper position and act it in a proper manner, we used to give the double anticoagulants following myocardial infarctions many times. But the chance of serious bleeding is obviously more. If the efficacy is more, the chance of adverse drug reaction is also more in case of combinations. Otherwise, we used to select a single drug. Neutropenia, thrombocytopenia, and other bone marrow toxicity is rare. Side effects are diarrhea, epigastric pain. Now I am coming to the thrombin inhibitor. And this thrombin inhibitor, the name of this thrombin inhibitor is very important, because it is not given in Goodman-Gilman, but not given most of your book. The name is Vorapaxar, Vorapaxar. So that is the direct thrombin inhibitor, and it activates the platelets by acting on protease activated receptors PAR1 on platelets. And the Vorapaxar selectively inhibits PAR1 and thus blocks the cellular action of thrombin and serves as modestly effective antiplatelet agent. Though it may help in the secondary prevention of thrombotic events in addition to standard care, it also increases the chance of bleeding. So the use of this antiplatelet drug is basically may unmask an underlying defect in hemostasis. But as a first line drug, we are never prescribing Vorapaxar. Next comes the drugs which are also belonging to the same group, they're almost similar kind of action. The prasugrel, the crangrelor, and the ticagrelor. So out of these drugs, the prasugrel is the commonest one. This is a newer, more potent and faster acting P2Y12 purinergic receptor blocker, and that is being increasingly used in acute coronary syndrome as well as when the strong antiplatelet action is required. So it's a basically a prodrug just like clopidogrel, but is more rapidly absorbed. It is also more rapidly and more completely activated, resulting in faster and more consistent platelet inhibition. Though CYP2C19 is involved in activation of prasugrel as well, it is a faster one-step process, and genetic polymorphism usually related and decrease in response. Recovery of platelets from prasugrel, it usually takes longer, around 7 days, and it is almost equal to low dose aspirin but more than clopidogrel, which is 5 days. Because of this rapid action, this can be prescribed in case of ST elevated myocardial infarction. The similar kind of drug is ticagrelor, and it's the latest P2Y12 receptor inhibitor which acts directly without needing any kind of metabolic activation. Ticagrelor is not a kind of thienopyridine but blocks platelet aggregation by inhibiting binding of ADP to P2Y12 receptor. Unlike clopidogrel and prasugrel, the action of ticagrelor is reversible. For those cases, the previous two drugs, it was irreversible, but in case of ticagrelor, it is reversible. That is the one advantage. It has a faster onset and quicker onset of action. Half-life is around 12 hours and twice daily administration is usually required. It is observed that high-dose aspirin may interfere with the action of ticagrelor, but not the low-dose aspirin. Mostly the adverse drug reactions are nausea, shortness of breath, tightness of chest, and therefore ticagrelor is a faster, more potent and more consistent acting P2Y12 inhibitor antiplatelet drug. I would like to conclude my presentation with the last group of drug, which is basically a kind of monoclonal antibody, and it's a abciximab, which is a glycoprotein 2B3A inhibitor. It's preventing the binding of fibrinogen with that receptor. It's a newer class of the derivative. It's basically, as I said, blocking the key receptor, that is glycoprotein 2B3A, the last step on platelet surface for fibrinogen and von Willebrand factor, and therefore finally the platelet aggregation is going to be prevented. Now they are used only in patients with acute coronary syndrome and cover the coronary artery bypass grafting, as well as if you want to do the invasive procedure like percutaneous coronary intervention, angioplasty, angiography, then you may use these kind of drugs like abciximab. It's a Fab fragment of chimeric monoclonal antibody against the GP2B3A protein, and it's relatively non-specific. As I said before, it will prevent the inhibition, it will prevent the binding of this receptor with fibrinogen. The dose of this drug is usually a bolus dose. Platelet aggregation remains inhibited for 12 to 24 hours, while the remaining antibody is cleared from blood with a t-half of 10 to 30 minutes. Abciximab is non-antigenic. The main risk is hemorrhage, obviously, and the incidence of which can be reduced by carefully managing the concomitant heparin therapy. So the thrombocytopenia is basically another complication which we may encounter in this case. It should not be used second time, since the risk of thrombocytopenia increases. Constipation, arrhythmia, paralytic ileus are quite it's not very uncommon, rather it is very expensive, but it's being used in unstable angina and adjuvant to coronary thrombolysis with streptokinase like drug, and also in case of percutaneous coronary intervention with stent replacement. Beside this, there are similar type of two drugs, tirofiban, and another one is Fevertide. Eptifibatide is a synthetic cyclic peptide and selectively binds to platelet surface glycoprotein 2b3A receptor, inhibits platelet aggregation. Whereas tirofiban is basically a non-peptide but specific glycoprotein 2b3A antagonist and is similar in properties to eptifibatide. Its plasma T-half is around 2 hours. It dissociates rapidly from the receptor and the indications and adverse effects are also similar to eptifibatide. So, what are the problems of eptifibatide? The problems of eptifibatide are bleeding, just like the pioneer one, the abciximab, and thrombocytopenia. Usually, these are given in infusion. So, with this, I am concluding my presentation on antiplatelet drugs. Thank you so much.